through the carbonate, that's how I got free. Jabba back off because there's no stopping me. Postmodern player, sample-tastic, flows ekphrastic. I get drastic, hey, watch the plastic. Yo, I name check and leave you drastic.
Welcome to episode 241 of the MacGuffin. I'm Spencer.
I'm Greg.
Today, in honor of the release of G.I. Joe Retaliation,
yes,
we're going to be talking about Dwayne Johnson, a.k.a. The Rock.
The Rizak.
Can you smell what the MacGuffin is cooking today?
It's some Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah.
We're going to be cooking up the steaming shit pile of most of his career.
That's harsh toke, man. Harsh toke. Yeah, it's been kind of interesting. Obviously, he started as a wrestler and sort of transitioned generally to an actor.
And man, his transition was not consistent. I think that's the thing. It's not that, I mean, he, didn't transition into being an actor full time, but I mean, his choices of acting as we go along here kind of seem to bounce around the radar, and it's both success level and choices. I feel like it took him a while to make that full decision to be like, I want to be just an actor.
I mean, I'll give you the fact that he's made some questionable choices, but I think he's a very charismatic and charming guy.
Oh, definitely. I'm not at all saying anything about the man's talent. I'm just saying it's kind of been an interesting appropriation of him as an actor.
I feel like we could say that of a lot of actors, though, don't you?
Yeah, but like, how many actors were an incredibly famous wrestler before? That's a little bit different.
Does that make it more impressive that he's able to do what most people are already?
No.
He's able to have a mediocre film career?
No, because he does action movies, and action movies don't have to be a good actor.
I disagree about that. I will disagree with you about that. But we're going to start towards the beginning of his film run in a film series that I was sort of a fan of, and that is The Mummy Returns, a.k.a. The Mummy 2.
Yes, and this would be the moment where, after this, we stopped being fans of the series.
Yeah, well, I mean,
slash during this, depending on where you fall.
I would say after this. I mean, it was it
the Scorpion King?
No, well, there's that, plus was it the Dragon Emperor?
Yeah, the Curse of the Dragon Emperor with Jet Li.
Yeah.
That was after Scorpion King, and I think that was even after the Scorpion King's direct-to-video sequel.
Scorpion King 2 or
whatever. And then there's a third one that's also direct-to-video sequel that's come out after.
Yeah. But as most importantly, this is the last one with Rachel Weisz.
Yes, so and Brendan Fraser. Well, no, because Brendan Fraser's in the Dragon Emperor.
Yeah.
So why keep watching with no Rachel Weisz? Huh?
Yeah, exactly. What's the incentive? I don't know. I mean, it's sort of a retelling of the classic Universal story of the Mummy. Obviously, it was the original one. This time, it's not like the Mummy's a good guy. He's not quite as much of a villain as the last time. He's still a villain, but then you have the added sort of villain of the Scorpion King thrown in, who is played by The Rock. In essence, though, I mean, it's sort of like, I guess kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator Salvation, where it's more of like them digitally putting him into the movie as opposed to him acting.
Yeah, he's there as himself for I feel like less than 5 minutes, and then he's CGI'd for the rest of his existence in the film.
And, I mean, I think I love sort of the adventure-y type films that these are. That's why I enjoyed the first one. It's because...
Real throwback to the Indiana Jones era.
Yep, throwback to the Indiana Jones era. Very charming actors. All working. Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, very charming couple together.
They were great in the first Mummy.
I think, the character of the Scorpion King is a very appropriate one sort of for The Rock to play. The sort of... he's kind of like a vessel that doesn't even really, he just operates. It's not like a thought-driven vessel. He's doing the function that he's sort of been cursed to do, essentially. And so, I mean, it's
very similar to the Mummy, the Mummy itself, but different in the way where it's less about a specific love interest or a personal desire as much as it is fulfilling a role, like you said, and just kind of embodying that role.
I mean, I think it's definitely very much just replicating the success of the original Mummy, no doubt about that.
No doubt, yeah. They even got a kid now. I mean, it's progressing along.
Yeah, exactly. But it still retains enough of the charm of the original one to make it still enjoyable.
I would agree.
Say. So, I mean, it might be 70% or 50% or whatever you want to call it of the original, but that's still enough.
Yes.
As the series went on, unfortunately, that dropped off.
Boy, did it.
I mean, I don't even dislike necessarily the Scorpion King. I kind of like them exploring that character more. I think that's fair. But beyond that, every other Mummy or Scorpion King film just feels like you're trying to milk that cow dry.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like out of I just feel it's strange when you're creating a franchise to take the new villain that you bring up in the sequel and not the original villain that's still around, not the original characters that are still around, but the new thing in the sequel to then get his own side story. It just seems like a weird choice, and so it's kind of not surprising to me that it didn't succeed.
It's definitely a weird choice, but I mean, I can't necessarily like really hate on it too much, because you could argue the first film was the sort of story about the mummy.
Yeah,
so, you know,
that's true.
Take it for
you don't really need much more story about the mummy, which is why they got rid of him after this one.
Yeah.
Dwayne Johnson's only spoken lines in the film are actually ancient Egyptian, which I think is kind of, his first major foray into acting, and he's doing action, which you can do, and then not speaking in English, so no one can criticize how badly he talks.
Made almost $420 million, though.
Not surprised at all.
Yeah.
This was one of those sequels that came out at the right time. It came out so soon enough after the first one that no one could retroactively hate the first one yet enough to not want to see it. Kind of like Men in Black 2.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2 years, I believe, after the last one. And to be fair, though, it was still better than G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, which Steven Sommers went on to direct after he did the first two Mummy movies. So that, and he also did Van Helsing.
Steven Sommers.
But, you know what he did direct?
Ray of Light, shining down on the joy that is.
Deep Rising, which is sitting right over there on that shelf right there. Fucking love that movie. So.
Little Treat Williams action, Famke Janssen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
With MacGuffin, specifically me and Spencer, will always pimp out Deep Rising.
I will forgive anything he does.
In fact, I'm calling it right now. In 2013, we're going to find a way to have a secret movie night with Deep Rising.
Right.
I won't say when, obviously, because we just
Grapes are rad.
now.
You better get on board or not, because fuck it, we'll do it.
And if you don't like it, we're going to school every one of you on what the joy of Deep Rising is.
Yeah.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Like the creatures from the deep, it's rising. See what I did there?
Yeah.
See what I did?
It's well played. Well played. Moving right along, though, just a couple years later, a film that I actually think showcased him pretty well.
Yes.
The Rundown. This is directed by Peter Berg, about a man who's sent to South America by the Amazon, I believe, in hopes of capturing a business associate's son.
Gentleman.
I mean, he's like a mob boss. Yeah. Bring back a mob boss's son.
Yes, played by Sean William Scott.
Yep. And along the way, he sort of discovers a I don't know what you want, slave driver down in the Amazon, played by Christopher Walken, and decides that he's not on board with that. And so he
gets involved with a local girl played by Rosario Dawson.
Yes.
Always big points for Rosario Dawson. Personal celebrity crush.
Yeah, she's not bad. But it's a fun film.
It is. It really is. It's fun action. It's got that right level of. I think like this and Bulletproof Monk are a good 1-2 punch of why Sean William Scott should have been more action than comedy. Because he does comedy good. It's not like he doesn't have that element down, but I think he's got the right level of energy to be the quippy action character, and he does that really well.
Well, I think he's good as like a supporting action character, not a star action.
Hey, man, Bulletproof Monk was good.
But he still had Chow Yun-Fat.
Well, yeah, but still, come on.
Chow Yun-Fat's no slouch.
That's true. International superstar Chow Yun-Fat.
But yeah, it's one of the better Peter Berg movies for sure. Granted, he's done some not so great ones like Very Bad Things and Battleship.
I was gonna say Very Bad Things is one of his few redeeming qualities. A ripple has come through the MacGuffin, and it will be Very Bad Things. But we've spoken about how I love that movie, and you hate it before, so not surprising.
But it's got very solid action. Rock clearly is a guy who's well equipped for action, and it has one of my favorite cameos of all time, where Arnold Schwarzenegger walks past him in the club in the beginning, and so essentially says like, "You're up." Yeah, and passes that torch right away, and it's a very physical movie. It's a very funny movie, and it's a very entertaining movie.
It's interesting because this is where I thought when I got to this movie, I thought that we were going to go a very similar Jason Statham route, where we were going to find a lot about the majority of the redeeming qualities out being stunt work. But entertainingly enough for this movie, Dwayne Johnson's stunt double was his cousin, Tenway, Chenway Reed,
Yeah, sounds good.
who was nominated and won the Best Overall Stunt by a Man in 2004 Taurus World Stunt Awards.
Yeah, they won 2 ones. They won Best High Work and Best Overall Stunt by a Stuntman.
Yeah.
Were nominated for Best Fight and Best Specialty Stunt.
Yeah,
So,
and both him and his cousins both like injured the crap out of themselves on this movie performing stunts, and it's pretty stunt heavy. So I think it's neat that but it's neat that when you get family to be your own stunt double. But at the same time, it's interesting that a guy who's a professional wrestler needed a stunt man.
yeah, it's unfortunate.
It's kind of an unfortunate set.
It's probably
He's no Jason Statham, let's just say that.
Yeah.
Which I never thought I would use as a mark for Jason Statham and against someone else.
To be fair, he's coming from a wrestling background, so I mean, it's a physically taxing thing, but it's also
still very
well
fake.
choreographed.
yes.
Let's leave it at that.
Okay, we will.
Continuing the trend of action movies, just a few years later in 2005,
Unfortunately.
he was in Doom. This is the live-action adaptation of the id Software classic video game Doom, about a group of space marines sent to investigate strange events at a research facility on Mars and find them at the mercy of genetically enhanced killing machines. Starring, let's see, Carl Urban and Rosamund Pike. Carl Urban is I guess, not the lead space marine. Dwayne Johnson is the lead space marine.
But realistically, Carl Urban's the main character.
Yes, he is the main character.
And originally his role was offered to The Rock, and he decided instead to take the Sarge role.
Well, I mean, Carl Urban's character has the history. I believe it's his sister who's working there, played by Rosamund Pike. She's the one working there, so he has sort of like a connection to the facility once it is being investigated. And I will admit I was a big fan of Doom.
Oh yeah,
I was curious about the prospect of them making a movie on it. I was very skittish about the announcement that they were going to do like
first person,
8 to 10 minute first person shooter sequence in the movie as an homage to the game. And honestly,
I'm sorry, if you're making a movie based on a game, you've already made the homage. That's the movie. You don't need to throw in an additional homage within an homage where you replicate video game play.
And,
do we all want to see a Grand Theft Auto movie where some guy goes to have sex in a car and all that happens is they sit in the car doing nothing and it rocks back and forth? No, it's dumb.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's seen The Beach...
Yes.
That was what ruined that movie for me, is when it became the like first-person video game. And I was just like, "What the fuck is going on?" And so this is very much the same. It's like it's like sped up, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense. The action is just sort of really CGI and cheesy. But
maybe it goes to say you can just choose yourself if this is a mark for or against Dwayne Johnson. But despite the fact that he plays a tough guy in the movie and generally kind of has a tough guy role that he gets put into, he admitted that he felt pretty nauseous playing the original Doom.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I think is funny, mostly because I've been playing video games for so long. The original Doom is just nothing. Come on, guys.
Well, I mean, we should note that Dwayne Johnson was nominated for Worst Actor at the Razzies. Did not win, though. Did not win, but, I mean...
Do we know who he lost to?
I can look it up. But,
you don't have to.
Here's the bottom line, though.
I'm just going to say it's Halle Berry. I'm going to guess it's Halle Berry for Catwoman. I don't even know if that came out this year. Oh, yeah. Well, maybe she wasn't Catwoman. I didn't make it all
the bigger question, though, is just like... Is it a positive or a negative against him that he was willing to play a villain, in essence? Like, I mean, obviously we're dealing with sort of like space creatures and stuff like that, but The Rock's character is one that shifts. And I kind of think that's a cool thing that, for a guy who, in a lot of ways, is sort of the template of a character who they always want to be the good guy. I mean, it's very easily could have been just like, I'm the hero.
Yeah, we'll just shove a bunch of plot hooks into the way to make you awesome and give you a terrible backstory, and you'll redeem yourself and you'll die to save everybody.
Okay, he lost to Rob Schneider for Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo for Worst Actor.
Okay, if this was going to be the first Deuce Bigalow, I was going to have to raise the funk, but I can say European Gigolo, totally deserved. Totally deserved.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that
Props, Deuce. I love you.
It's just not a great... not a great adaptation of a story. Like, granted, the source material was fairly thin.
Yeah, exactly. With video game movies, you can go like one of two ways. You can try to make it so You can try to take the tone that the game had and replicate that tone while keeping true to the series, like the Resident Evil games did.
Right.
Or you can try to be like so by the book of the game to have that be like so many of Uwe Boll's movies have done and failed, which is just trying to be them. Just
Let me throw something out at you though. If you're going to do an id Software video game, you know what the one you do is? Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
Oh yeah.
Boom, done.
Nazis,
or even just Wolfenstein. Yeah.
Nazis, come on.
Yeah,
Mecha Hitler.
Yeah.
Mecha Hitler.
Right.
That's a thing in that game. Mecha Hitler.
That'd be like
Come on.
Captain America, but good.
Hey, Captain America was good.
It was okay. It was satisfactory. That was like a passing C. There's no danger.
This guy.
Wolfenstein, I want to buy those rights. If somebody doesn't already own them, I want to make that movie.
There's a lot of cool id Software like nods in the game, but is that really? I mean, in the movie, but is that enough to save a movie? No, it's not. Your movie is the homage.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be your selling point.
This is just one of those things that they bought because of the name.
Yeah.
It's like everyone knows Doom. Let's make a movie of this.
Yep. We'll put first-person
Battleship.
shooter in it.
No. Moving right along in terms of the creative projects on paper, The Rock was in Southland Tales.
Yes.
This is Richard Kelly's follow-up film to Donnie Darko.
Sophomore slump.
You could say that.
Oh, I will. You know why I will say it? Because it scored the lowest reviews for the 2006 Cannes Film Festival, averaging a 1.1 out of 5 in all the dailies.
Look, I'm a Richard Kelly fan. I think he's a very creative dude. Donnie Darko, fantastic film.
Yes.
I will say, I think that sometimes some people need to be sort of, not restrained, but...
Maybe have a watchful eye over their shoulder that has possibly a little bit more authority or oomph than them to rein in, maybe?
Rein in. That's
corral,
a good term.
maybe?
And this is sort of an example of somebody being given too much authority to run with this creativity. Look, the idea is interesting. It's an ensemble piece set in the futuristic landscape of July 4th, 2008. As it stands on the brink of social, economic, and environmental disaster, boxer Santoros is a action star stricken with amnesia. His life intertwines with Crystal Now, an adult film star developing her own reality TV show project, and
Sarah
Ronald
Michelle Gellar.
Tavernan, a Hermosa Beach police officer, holds the key to a vast conspiracy. And I believe that's Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake, probably. Yeah.
Look, it's a creative idea, but it's just one of those ones that's just so self-indulgent that it really is unwatchable. Like, there's a point at the middle of the movie where Justin Timberlake essentially does a 3-minute music video, and I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is nonsense.
I think Sarah Michelle Gellar does a song in the movie as well, if I remember correctly.
It's just crazy. Like, let's see, Sherry O'Terry and Molly Shannon are in it.
Yeah.
Like, if that doesn't set off warning bells, like
Amy Poehler, if I remember
well,
correctly.
that's positive. Like, but Sherry O'Terry and Molly Shannon, like,
that's true.
Why would they ever be in a movie?
That's true. That isn't an SNL product. Yeah, that's a good point.
Noteworthy, though, based upon your Cannes thing, not nominated for any Razzies. I don't know how that's possible.
I want to say this is one of those ones that was like, I think what it was is it rode that line between being indecipherable and being artsy. That the only people who hated it were probably people who had already hated Richard.
Oh no, I think everyone hated this. It's a terrible movie. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, it's not good. It's not very interesting. The plot is very sort of convoluted. It's really, like, as I said, there's like a music video in the middle of it, not just like a 20-second thing. It's like a 3-minute music video. An
actual pop star.
Yeah, I mean, I forget how long the film is, but
I think it's incredibly long.
I think it's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, something like that.
It's so indulgent, and it's not even like The Rock is bad. Like, he's fine. Like,
he's just in it.
Sarah Michelle Gellar's fine. It's just like,
this is, interestingly enough, his first acting role where he dropped The Rock from his billing. He just went as Dwayne Johnson.
Very nice.
Yeah,
I'm all on board with that. I mean, look, I think Richard Kelly is immensely interesting. I think The Box was an interesting idea, but essentially everything he's done since the original cut of Donnie Darko, the theatrical cut of Donnie Darko, has been subpar.
Bad.
I mean, let's be real. Like, director's cut of Donnie Darko, not good.
Horrible.
Southland Tales, not good. The Box, not good. Like, it's just, why are you doing this, Richard Kelly?
What happened? What happened, Richard Kelly?
I think it's that he got more freedom to do what he wanted.
Yeah, they were like, look at how amazing Donnie Darko was. That never would have happened if we reined you in. And then they looked at the director's cut and they were like, oh God, it probably would have happened if we reined you in. Why did we do this?
I mean, he hasn't done anything since The Box either. So
when was that?
2009. So, I mean, maybe people are
maybe
finally...
if we're lucky, he's finally done.
I'm not opposed to him. Like, the dude is creative. I'll give it up to him.
Teasing.
I just he needs a hands-on producer to handle that. And I mean, honestly,
maybe Spencer, you found your new job. Be Richard Kelly's producer.
I would do it totally in a second. But listen, of all the things in this, The Rock is probably one of the more positive things. It's really
a toss-up.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's good to see. Roland Tavernan was Sean William Scott again, actually.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes.
So, 2 hours and 25 minutes. That's how long.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's not short. It's not enjoyable. It's just...
5 minutes longer than On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
I wish it were 5 minutes better, but it's just... It's a grind to get through. I mean, I watched it one time, and I was just like, oh, I can't.
You're like, I gotta take a dinner break. Go do something else.
It's one of those ones
that this movie inspired in me.
I watched it once and I was good after that. I was like, I don't need to watch it anymore.
I think it's on instant, and I think I have never done anything other than go nope as I went by it.
I think you're probably okay doing that. Venturing back into the realm of sort of charming, charismatic, and comedy, we're talking The Other Guys.
Yes.
This is the Mark Wahlberg, Will Ferrell, Adam McKay directed film about two cops who are sort of the other guys, if you will, based upon the Ice-T intro.
It's literally supposed to be you've got your two stereotypical heroic cops, and these are other cops that happen to be in that same precinct.
The two hero cops being played by Samuel L. Jackson and Dwayne Johnson.
Yep, and with the exception of the portraits of them during their spoiler funeral scene, they are never seen without their sunglasses in the entire film.
I mean, they're very funny.
They're great.
I think that's one of the things that I like about Dwayne Johnson is not only is he very charismatic, he's very charming, but he's also willing to poke fun at himself.
Oh,
he's
totally.
Willing to, I mean, again, much like with Doom, where he's willing to play sort of a villain, he's willing to sort of play that foil, if you will, sort of that the joke that
I mean, he just slew family films in between a lot of these that were, obviously he's playing up the comedic side, doing the Hulk Hogan, being a little suburban commando.
Well, I think you can even go back and just say, it's probably really based out of that sort of wrestling.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because he really did play sort of the villain a lot of time in the wrestling. I mean, that's sort of like his shtick is being...
And comedy is all about timing, and, he's probably very well trained in his timing, so...
He's very, very charming. I mean, I think this is a really fun film. This is what I had wanted Cop Out to essentially be.
Yeah. I love The Other Guys. I really wanted them to make a sequel. I know it probably won't ever happen, or by the time it does, it'll be... I think by the time
they make another Anchorman, I don't see why they can't make another Other Guys.
Yeah, that's true. This is another one of those movies that, I saw in a stretch of time where I had no faith in Will Ferrell. So it was incredibly... rejuvenatingly joyous for me to have loved this movie so much. It's so entertaining. Will Ferrell's great. Mark Wahlberg is a great straight man. He's a great straight man. And
I just love the whole plot line with Will Ferrell and all the women who love him.
Yes.
It's just the absurdity of all these.
I mean, come on, Michael Keaton consistently making TLC references and not claiming to not know why.
Michael Keaton is one of the most underappreciated actors working. He needs to be in more stuff.
He does.
I mean,
and he needs to make more TLC references.
Yeah. Granted, the film was not a huge winner at the box office. I think it might have been a little bit of a loss in terms of theaters. But I think this is one of those
Mike and the Boys, come on. We will have sex in your car. It will happen again.
I think this is one of those ones that's really developed a bit of a cult following.
By this guy right here. I've been helping we've been pushing that cult following as much as possible.
But, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson and Dwayne Johnson are so good in the beginning of this movie that, I honestly could see them doing a spin-off just for those guys.
Like a prequel type thing of their entire career beforehand.
It just seems
they could just do a short. They could do a 30-minute short of them blowing up everything, and it would be hilarious.
Yeah. It seems like there's the material to be found. Moving right along, though, just a couple years later, we got... Or was it
Going back into the hard action?
Nope, same year, actually. And that is Faster.
Not a Fast 5 movie. Fast and the Furious movie.
We'll get there.
We'll get there, yeah.
No, this is the story of a man who is sent to prison... and after he gets out, he sets out to avenge his brother's death.
Yes, that's right.
After the heist that went wrong and put him in prison to begin with. And so he goes after the people who sort of set him up.
Yes.
And, that involves...
Revenge, Rowenge.
Rowenge, but he's also being chased by Billy Bob Thornton, who's a cop who has a questionable background of his own. This film isn't great. But I like that it operates in a level of gray. You have Dwayne Johnson, who's an ex-con,
yes,
but at the same time, and he's on a rampage, essentially, Archer style. But he's doing it because of...
For a good reason.
For a good reason. You have a cop...
chasing a criminal.
Which seems like a positive thing, but he has a questionable history of his own. You have a hitman trying to kill Dwayne Johnson before he is able to execute his goal. Who might not necessarily be as bad a guy as he seems. I mean, it's just real. I like gray, and this is a film that operates in that world of gray.
Yes, which is always pleasurable.
And The Rock is pretty badass in the movie, and like he really just does not fuck around in the movie. Like,
the club toilet fight scene that happens in the movie.
Yes.
He trained for 2 days specifically, learning 52 blocks, which just amazes me that this is a thing. 52 blocks is a fighting style that originated in West Coast prisons. Wow. Specifically a prison. And so he's like, hey, I'm playing an ex-con who's been in prison a long time. I'm going to learn to beat ass like a bunch of West Coast convicts.
It's not a great film. I'm not going to argue that it's great, but like I find it enjoyable, and I think, sort of watching the both the gray of those three characters, but also you sort of see the evolution of these people who betrayed The Rock and sort of what's become of them. I mean, some of them have sort of found religion, some of them are still evil people, and so on. It's just like, it's really interesting to sort of see what happens in life. Like, life, when you put it, it just doesn't pause when you go to jail.
Life isn't black and white.
No, well, it's not just black and white, but it doesn't stay standstill when you go to prison. Like, things have evolved during that time period you were in jail.
People that might have been good guys become bad guys. People might have been bad guys become good guys.
Exactly. So, and, it doesn't hurt to have some cool action in it as well. So
beat some fools' heads in.
Yeah.
With your fists.
With your fists.
Fists of fury.
Yeah. Moving right along, though, you had mentioned it prior to this. We're talking Fast 5. This is the fifth film in the Fast and the Furious
franchise.
I was wondering if there's some other
fifth
alliteration.
Film in the Fast and Furious franchise, Fast 5, starring Fane Fonson.
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah.
This is an interesting franchise. Look, I don't know where you stand on the Fast and the Furious.
I stand out of the way of traffic so it can continue to drive by me.
All right. I don't
hate them. They're just not they're right up there with Katherine Heigl rom-coms. They just do not fit a period of my life that I give a crap about. I
totally saw the first one by just random chance. Like, I had 2 hours to kill at a theater before another movie, and I was like,
going to say, you got a screener pass for it.
No. This is like 1999 or something.
Whoa, back in the day.
Yeah. I was still in high school or something when that came out. But, totally saw it by chance. I thought the first one was fun. The second one was meh. Tokyo Drift was pretty fun. Fast and Furious was pretty fun. But I really like... Fast 5 because it brings back almost everyone you want from the franchise in a really fun way.
Not only do they bring back everybody, but the opening credit sequence has scenes from all of the major places where all of the major action happened in all 4 of the films beforehand. It's like an entire montage of like the locations from the first 4 films. It's pretty cool for a 5th movie in the sequel series.
I think it's unique to have a film series largely getting better with age, and it's also helped that it's sort of in some ways drifted away from the sort of car race roots of it.
I was gonna say, kind of matured to some extent.
Sure, there are chase sequences in it.
Yes,
but the whole...
They've actually tried to have like plot characters beyond that, and then fall back on the drive sequences as the action.
It was so much focused on like the the subculture of racing cars in the first few films that that sort of made it a niche audience and sort of pulled back to a more general audience. And I think there's just something nice about the...
That's why the step-up movies do better than the, like, you got served type of movies, because they're wide audience.
But it's just, I like the familial element of the series, you know, where, you know, Paul Walker is married or involved with Vin Diesel's character's sister, who is in love with Michelle Rodriguez, who's friends with Tyrese and Ludacris and blah blah blah. Like, there's this family element to it that adds a nice amount of depth to what could be a generic action film.
They're like, hey, we've had these films that have all gone in their various ways, some connected, some not, and now we're going to bring this fifth one in, and we're going to pull them all back into one cohesive world and story.
Even though it actually takes place technically before Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, that's right, it does.
It goes like 1, 2, 4, 5, 3. And then I presume 6
7,
is... I think
7, 8, 9, 10, 6, 14, 13, 12,
presumably
11.
6 is still before 3, but we'll find out when that comes out. But, you know...
Pretty soon it's just going to get to this point where it's like, if you're still fast and you're still angry, see this, part 17.
Yeah. Still Fast and Furious. I don't know. Old man Fast and Furious. I like the other thing I think is interesting is that it's also one of those films that, much like Faster, is not black and white in terms of who the good guys and the bad guys are. Because I mean, like Fast 5, they're not the real bad guys in the movie, but you also have the police are hunting them who aren't necessarily bad guys too. And it's sort of like that's who Dwayne Johnson plays, and
that's right.
is the leader of the police force that's trying
Rio police force, I believe.
He's an American operative who's sent there to track down. I think Dominic Toretto, played by Diesel, but also like the rest of the gang, more or less too. And while he's there, he sort of realizes, you know, that maybe they aren't necessarily the bad guys that he should be looking for. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's fun. I mean,
spoiled. I'll never see it.
Yeah,
I won't. I will never see it. But it's not anything you did.
It's directed by Justin Lin, who did I think everything since Tokyo Drift, as well as Better Luck Tomorrow, which is a good little indie drama. Have you ever seen that one? About a couple of friends who kill another friend during high school. Just throwing it out there. Kill John Cho. Not necessarily a great thing, but it's a fun franchise. I'm really looking forward to actually Fast 6 or whatever it is called. I don't remember even whatever the next one is. I'm looking forward to it this year.
Should just be. They got to make some kind of 6-gear joke in there. They got to fit that in there.
Shift,
like like a Fast 6 shift or something.
Yeah.
Fast Shift 6.
The titles of the films have probably been the weakest part, honestly, of the series, but they're pretty fun.
Yeah. It's no Step Up to the Streets or Step Up 3D.
No.
Or Step Up Forever.
But speaking of 3D, this Thursday, the 28th of March, we have G.I. Joe Retaliation. This is the sequel to the G.I. Joe franchise, which Stephen Summers I had thought had killed with Rise of Cobra. This time, the Joes are not only fighting their mortal enemy, the Cobra, they're forced to contend with threats from within the government that jeopardize their very existence.
Yes. They're essentially blacklisted / removed is the idea by the ostracized by the American government.
Essentially, they're Ghost Protocol.
Yeah.
The Ghost Protocol, which is probably going to be a better movie, but also, you know.
No, you mean a JJ or a Mission Impossible Tom Cruise franchise might be more relevant than than something fueled primarily by the Tates.
Yeah. Well, to be fair,
I know.
It looked like they killed him, which is kind of a shame because he then blew up, and they're like, "Wait a minute, maybe we should try and figure out how to keep him in a little bit."
Reshoots, and then they like.
So I'm curious to see how much he's actually in it, but essentially it looks like Dwayne Johnson, Bruce Willis, Ray Park, and like a few other people are really the Joes.
Yeah, and I mean, come on, you can't go wrong with if you're making a G.I. Joe movie. You can't go wrong bringing in Roadblock, and that's who Dwayne Johnson plays.
I guess Ray Park's Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
So it's is it Byung Hyun Lee?
Oh yeah, who plays Storm Shadow? Yeah.
So I think he's really the only one who carries over for the most part.
I think you might be right.
I think Jonathan Pryce is briefly in the first one.
Yeah, he was the president in the first one.
And Channing Tatum, obviously.
They even replaced Cobra Commander, the guy who's acting Cobra Commander. Not Joseph Gordon-Levitt anymore. Yeah. It's an actual different gentleman they got. But this one's actually, I mean,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt anymore,
I'm not saying this is going to be a good film. I'm not going to see this film in the theater. I probably might not even see this film once it comes out to Netflix. But you know what this film does not have heavily influenced in the trailer
Marlon
so far.
Wayans.
Well, Marlon Wayans. But I was going to say crazy robot suits.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of crazy robot suits in the
pretty
trailer.
bad.
And that, I'm willing to say, is at least a closer step towards making actual G.I. Joe. And of course, you know, it doesn't also hurt bringing out Bruce Willis as the original Joe. He's actually playing, what, Duke, right? Is that what they
Joe Colton.
Okay, so
Yeah.
probably not Duke.
Duke is Channing Tatum.
Oh, that's... What?
Dude,
He's not Lieutenant Falcon? Come on.
I can't.
Come on, you're just throwing away opportunities here, G.I. Joe
I don't know enough
Retaliation.
about G.I. Joe. Look, it's in 3D. Not a fan of that. The first
I think it was all done in post, too.
The first film I watched, believing it couldn't be possibly as bad as it was. It was terrible. There are a lot of things about it that, like, you know, I didn't dislike Channing Tatum in the first one. There are other characters, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt was actually one of the weaker parts. I liked, what's his name? From
Eccleston?
Yeah, Christopher Eccleston.
He's what, Destro? Is that
Destro, yeah. Granted, he was a little cheesy, but, you know, I like him in general. But, yeah, it was a wasted opportunity. There are a lot of good characters in the original film that I feel like they could have done.
Could have expanded on more rather than going with these guys.
Well, I mean, let's see. You have, like, Dennis Quaid was General Hawk in the first one. You had Mr. Echo as Heavy Duty. You had, let's see, trying to figure. Sienna Miller as the Baroness. You had Rachel Nichols as Scarlet. Like, these people are all fine. Like,
They are, at least in the new ones, they've like fleshed out a lot of the other characters that they're bringing in. They've got like the Blind Master. I think they got Zartan in there. They might even have if I remember correctly, there's a Jinx. There's a lot of like G.I. Joe names that just come flying out at you when you look through the cast list. Of course, they're all by people you never heard of before.
I mean, you've got Jinx, Firefly, Jay. Like, you've got a whole bunch of good people, but it's just. I always have issues with films that don't have continuity. Even if it's shitty continuity, I would like some sort of continuity, and it feels like they just basically tried to retcon the previous one as much as possible.
Now, there is a very small glimmering hope of a wisp of a chance that is a good thing, that they've essentially rebooted it without having to reboot it, which I would kind of wish people would do.
I mean, you
make a sequel.
You
don't
might be
reboot it
right,
again.
but at the same time, I feel like you could have somehow worked it. So
There's a lot of better choices you could have made. Don't think I'm in any way defending this movie.
Right. I'm just saying, it always feels weird to me to just basically be like, everything you remember from the last one, forget about that because we're doing something completely different. So we'll see how it goes.
They call those prequels, Spencer.
And they're usually bad.
Yep.
Nevertheless, join us next week for our DVD rundown for April
2nd.
April 2nd.
My birthday.
Woo woo. Woo. Special Grey DVD picks, perhaps. We'll find out. And as always, you can find us at MacGuffinPodcast.com, Twitter.com/MacGuffinCast, Facebook.com/MacGuffinPodcast. Phone number 323-761-9842. We're on iTunes. We're on Blip.tv. We're on Miro, Roku.
Check in and get glue. Get those sweet little round stickers to show off to all your friends that you've watched more MacGuffin than they have.
Yep.
Leave us some reviews on iTunes. Subscribe to our YouTube. Bug us. Tell us what's wrong. We'll always be right in the end, but
Yeah.
you're welcome to try.
Yeah. And we'll see you next time.
T-1000 can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. Magneto can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. Even Zod can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. It's tight, don't even try to bite the side style. Mr. Spock can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. The Wrath of Khan can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. The Borg can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. Because I've got space game and it feels alright.